Handheld gaming is something that I have always loved. You know, as a kid, I feel like I probably played handheld games every single day. It wasn't really until I got into Xbox, you know, playing Call of Duty, playing Halo, playing GTA, playing Fallout, you know, like all these bigger games that I really started to wean off of the handheld systems and mainly just play on my TV. But I feel like over the last few years, at least for me, handheld gaming has been making a huge comeback. You know, you got the Switch, you got the Switch 2 coming out, you got all these handheld PCs, you got all these emulators, people modding their DSs, you know, like handheld games are probably now more accessible than ever. So today I wanted to take a trip down memory lane and show you my entire handheld console collection, because just looking at it right now, guys, I have a lot. I really do have a lot. So I'm gonna show you which ones I got, you know, tell you which ones are my favorite and go over some of the stories behind them. So let's get into it. All right, guys, starting off with the first handheld system I ever owned, that being the Game Boy Advance SP. This is actually the second Game Boy Advance SP I ever owned, because I started with the red one and I got no clue what happened to it, bro. I don't know if I broke it or lost it or someone stole it, but eventually I got this one as a replacement, but I don't know, I just like the red one more, but whatever. I was born in 2000 and this system came out in 2003, which is kind of wild to think that my parents gave me a whole system at 3 years old, but thank God they did, bro, because this console really got me into gaming. With games like Pokemon Ruby, Sonic Advance, Super Monkey Ball. I remember I played Donkey Kong Country 2 on this, Mega Man Zero, all the other Mega Mans, you know, all the Mario games on this. Like, this console just really got me into gaming, and I will always love the Game Boy Advance SP for that. And it's also just very compact. I don't gotta worry about messing up the screen just by putting it away. Like, this is a near perfect system, bro. This is another Game Boy Advance SP that I got. You know, I got it like probably like a year ago. I did like a shell replacement on it, but this is probably gonna be like a project one. I eventually wanna do like a screen replacement and get like a better LED screen, maybe do like the USB-C replacement. Also, the hinges are a little messed up, but this one's pretty nice. I always love like the clear red. I always think it goes so hard. All right, but the Game Boy Advance is the only Game Boy I played as a child, but I have a few other ones in my collection, so let me go through those two. All right, next one is the Game Boy Color. This Game Boy Color I actually got off Facebook Marketplace for like $30, and it was blue originally, but the shell was all messed up, so I did another clear red replacement. You're gonna see a pattern. I love the clear red ones. The game in it I have is, what is it? Going Quackers. It's a Donald Duck game. I had this game as a child and I would play it on the Game Boy Advance SP, but it was the only Game Boy Color game that I ever owned. Next we have a Game Boy Pocket. As you guys could see, there is a theme with the red. What I want to do eventually is get all the Game Boys in order and have like a red shell on them and like put it in like a display case. The only two that I'm missing is the original Game Boy Advance and the original Game Boy, but so far I got these three. This one was actually a gift that my girlfriend's brother gave to me. I forgot if he gave it to me for my birthday or Christmas, but he's really into like modding Game Boys and all that, so he modded this one for me. I mean, all he did was the shell swap, but I love the shell swaps, bro. I gotta make like a shelf sometime soon, bro, because I keep forgetting. All right, next up are my Game Boy Micros. You know, I never thought I was gonna own a Game Boy Micro. I actually got these like 2 months ago. I made a whole video about it because my mom found this like giant bin in the garbage of my building, just full of all these retro handheld games and all that, and these two were in there, so I kept these for my collection, and they're just hard, bro. Like, they're a little too small for me. Like, I probably wouldn't take it out. They turn on and everything. I'd rather personally play the normal Game Boy, but you know, they're cool, I guess, if you just want to throw it in your pocket. This one got Yoshi's Island on it. Who knows? Maybe I'll do a red shell swap on one of these two. I don't know yet. I don't know yet. But all right, guys, that's it for my Game Boy collection. So now we're gonna move on to my DS collection. Listen, I got a lot of nostalgia for the Game Boy Advance, but the DS is the system or line of systems that really just ran my childhood, because I've had a DS since the DS Lite to now. I'm still playing my 3DS to this day. So I've been playing DS for over 20 years probably at this point. But starting off with my first DS ever, that being the DS Lite. This is the first DS I ever owned. I never had the original boxier DS, but the DS is just such a goated system, bro. It literally took everything good about the Game Boy Advance and just made it better. It flips open. It's longer, so it's more comfortable to play. It has an extra screen, so you could do a lot more things in games. And it just had a goated game lineup, bro. It had New Super Mario Bros. It had some of the best Pokemon games ever on. It had Diamond and Pearl, Platinum, Soul Silver, Heart Gold. It had Black, White 1 and 2, bro. It just had so many good games on this console. Like, this is one of the best systems of all time. I got a little Bumblebee case on this one that I've had since I was a kid, and I don't know. I like putting cases on my stuff because I never trust myself. I feel like I'm gonna break them if I don't. But after the DS Lite came the DSi, and I never planned on getting a DSi. I thought it was kind of stupid. I'm just like, you just put a camera on it, and what am I gonna use the camera for? And you took away the option to play Game Boy games. But I wasn't planning on getting one, but then my parents gave me one for my birthday, so I ended up giving this one to my younger brother, which is a theme for the DSs. I give the one I'm using to my younger brother and get the new one. But unfortunately, I have no clue what my younger brother did with my DSi. I don't know if he lost it, whatever, so we don't have a DSi anymore, unfortunately. But after the DSi came the 3DS, and this right here is my first ever 3DS. I got like a battery pack case on it, and to be honest, you know, I was debating between the blue one and the black one. I kind of regret not getting the blue one. I feel like the blue one stood out a little bit more. Also, when the 3DS came out, I thought it was just gonna be like another gimmick like the DSi camera, but the actual jump in like performance from the DSi to the 3DS is actually really big. Like you could play a lot more powerful games on this thing. But the biggest problem that I had with the 3DS when it came out is I just feel like there weren't enough good games on it, bro. There really wasn't. Like, I love Pokemon. There was no Pokemon on this at launch. I feel like most of the good games for 3DS came out way after, like a year or two after. So at launch, I kind of thought the system was kind of mid. I'm not gonna lie. I was mainly just playing my DS games on this thing. So after like a year or two of not really using it, I handed it off to my younger brother. And then right at that point, all the new Pokemons came out. So I was just like, now I need a 3DS. And fortunately, my friend had one that he didn't want. So he sold it to me for like $100. And now I had two. Now I had this DS was mine. This 3DS was my younger brother. So we both had the same one at the same time. And I would just bring this one to school. I'll put it in my pocket. I'll play it on the train to school. Like, I probably played this one a lot more than the original one. As you could tell, it's in a lot better condition because my younger brother never had it, but he's younger, so it's whatever. But after the 3DS dropped, you know, the 3DS XL, and then they dropped the new 3DS, which is this one. It's just a bit sleeker. Apparently it has better performance. It has this little extra button thing that I never personally used, but I remember when Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon came out, and then this thing came out, I was like, yo, I want to get the big one, bro. Because at that point, I'm like 16, 17. I had big hands. I didn't be wanting to play on the small little thing. But this system, unfortunately, I didn't play it that much because I had it for like maybe a year and a half before the Switch came out. So then after that, I got the Switch, closed this thing, put it in my little Pokeball case, and I did not take it out for years. But it's in mint condition. But after this 3DS is my other 3DS. I was telling you about that bin my mom found with all the consoles. There was also another new 3DS in there. So I got this one. I ended up modding this one. I decided I'd probably keep the other one as like a collection piece since it's in like perfect condition. So this one's modded. I'd be playing mad stuff on this. I dropped a video about me modding it a few weeks ago. Definitely go check it out. But I've been taking this to work. I've been playing this like all the time now. All right, guys. So we went through my Game Boy collection. We went through my DS collection. And now we just have a little miscellaneous things lying around. Starting off with a PSP. Growing up, I was never really that big on the PSP. You know, my older brother had the black one, and when he stopped using it, he gave it to me to use, but I never really played it that much because I always liked the DS more, but I have no clue what happened to the black one. I'm not even gonna lie. A few weeks ago though, when I was modding my DS, I told one of my friends that I can mod his, so I modded his, and then he just gave me this. He was as a thank you. He's like, hey bro, I know you collect consoles. I had this lying around. I don't want it. If you want it, you can have it. So he gave me this, but the problem is there's no battery in it. I gotta replace the battery, see if it even works, cause and then I'm probably gonna end up modding it at one point, but it's just a nice little collection piece, the little silver one. And then after that, we had the big Nintendo system that came out after the 3DS, being the Nintendo Switch. The Nintendo Switch is a great console, don't get me wrong, but I feel like my biggest problem with the way all these new handheld consoles are going is they lack portability. I can't just throw this in my pocket the same way I could with this. You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like I never really play it outside. I would only play it on the TV because I can't just put this in my pocket. I don't want to pull this out on the train and get robbed. You know, I don't want to just go sit in the park and play this and get robbed. I mean, I live in New York, so it's easy to get robbed. I just wish handheld consoles went back to being smaller. Like I could just throw them in my pocket because it's just like most of the games I played on this ended up being on my TV anyway since it was too big to take outside. And if it wasn't a Nintendo brand game, I had no reason to buy it on the Switch because the Switch isn't as powerful as these other consoles I had. I have the Xbox One, I have a PC, so there's really not a need for me to buy anything that's not a Nintendo game on the Switch. All right, but we better wrap it up. We just got two more things, guys. My emulators, you know, starting off with the Mii U Mini Plus. This is a nice little system, you know, it plays up to like Game Boy Advance games, it plays PS1 games, but this one's cool. Whenever I go on the train, I just throw this in my jacket pocket or my bag pocket. I can whip it out, it's really discreet, it's really small, and I can have fun on this thing. And my other emulator is the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro. I've mentioned this one in other videos. This one's cool because it could play PS2, it could play Game Boy, it could play GameCube, it could play Wii, it could play some Switch games. It just plays so many things, and this way I don't have to like carry around my 3DS and my Game Boy and something else. Like I can just play everything on here and not worry about losing something from my collection. Look how much smaller it is than the Switch. Look how much smaller it is, bro. it's a lot. I mean, it's like the size of a Switch Lite, I guess, but I love this console, bro. I take this to work every single day, and whenever I get a chance, I pull it out. But all right, guys, that is gonna wrap it up for today's video. That is my entire handheld console collection. If you were big on handheld consoles, drop down in the comment section below which one of these is your favorite or which one you have the most nostalgia for. And if you like videos like this, guys, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We got videos coming out every single week, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Wake up out the door, it's time to get this money. So many pitfalls in my life, that shit ain't even funny. Them rainy nights had them days looking mad sunny. My clothes nice, remember when them shits was mad.